to reflect on where did the whole field of volunteer management come from. And it really did start in the healthcare area. And it was really a HR model of command and control. It was, we move them in, we have a position description, we get them trained, and then we push them out in the field. And it also corresponds with the greatest generation, older people, that their duty was to serve, and they would do whatever they were told. We were fighting a war in World War II. We all chipped in, we all did what we had to, and we worked and we volunteered selflessly and supported those organizations. So we all know those nonprofits who are still volunteering to this day. I've been here for 23 years. Well, those days are gone in the sense of additional people who are going to sign up for that. So now, really, what this is about is more moving to more of a two-way dialogue. And here's the thing: as you look for capacity-building volunteers, leaders and skilled volunteers, the higher the functioning level, the more the two-way dialogue you're going to have. But I believe the payoff is going to be significant, and has been in some of these reports. The other thing the research is showing is that, yes, there is a what's in it for me, what am I going to get out of it? But that's broad. That doesn't just mean, you know, getting a job. And people also want to see that they're making a difference. We all know, don't we, of people who said, I tried volunteering in that place. You know, it didn't really, I didn't really feel like I was very well utilized. I could do other things with my time. And so this woman stopped me before I volunteer again. There are not many of them left. They're out there, but not many. Iona Senior Services, a social service organization. I'm going to illustrate this model. They are a larger nonprofit, and they serve older people in the in Washington, D.C. principally, and Northwest Washington. This organization has an amazing volunteer. She's called a Volunteer Manager and Partnership Director. So they fuse the whole volunteering piece with the external piece of connecting with the community. And one of the first things that she did was she worked with a volunteer who had experience in HR, actually. When someone says they want to volunteer, they call the number, right? They actually like people to call. They don't want them to fill out lots of information. And a volunteer will actually screen that person initially. Do you want to do a day of volunteering? Do you want to do one of our pre-assigned projects? Or are you interested in skilled volunteering? And so she basically figures out who is interested in the skilled and the leader volunteering. Those people go to the volunteer coordinator person, and the other folks she can work with and help to place them. So she's free labor, and she loves her job. So already volunteers being engaged in a really good way. She spends, yes.
Would you say, especially given your past experience
Yeah.
at the Volunteer Center for Montgomery County, that organizations that don't have staff or even volunteers that can play that role can go to these organizations that will do some of that for them and screen those volunteers? Was that one of the roles of the center you were involved in?
Well, the volunteer centers really helping to place volunteers with nonprofits and to help build the capacity of nonprofits to do that as well as possible. So, yeah, the center is a great resource, and I'm glad that you mentioned the Montgomery County Volunteer Center, and you can just Google that as a good resource. So the whole issue of skilled volunteering, one of the things, for example, that I'll tell just a story about the. They have all sorts of people coming through the doors. They have, for example, people who are leader volunteers who then manage other volunteers to do home delivered meals program. So they actually have ownership, and they do that. They're responsible. They have to keep up with folks. But let's say for the senior management, if you're talking to them, there are examples in the report of a guy who came through and said, well, I've actually, I worked for years, and I used to do educational programming. And she worked with him, she talked with him, she had to invest the time. And I know we don't feel like we have the time. She had to invest the time to really get to know what was going on with him. She placed him with the development department. He's like, how's that working? This particular organization, Iona Senior Services, one of their main constituencies were member congregations, faith community. And the staff really they didn't have enough time to actually reach out a lot and talk with them. What's going on? What do you need? What's the problem? How can we help? So that staff person was used in that role, not to raise funds specifically, but to help build and do the relationship building, which would then help to show the value. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that this can go. One of the things I think it's cool for your websites, I know that some websites you have that I see out there, they'll list all the positions, right? Every single position and what it involves. Iona takes a different tact. They have very general categories. This was one general category. Then they had another general category for being a friendly visitor. Then they had another general category. But they didn't list the position descriptions. The idea was to suck people in, to have them be able to say, maybe that's something I might be able to do. So I don't know, this seems fairly appealing to me. Weekdays 10 to 5, provide professional experience at your expertise in a variety of different ways: marketing, communications, business development, financial planning. Now, does Iona have a specific need right now in all those areas? Probably not. But the person that they want to attract is basically saying, you know what, I might check that out. So I would encourage that kind of thinking of doing that broadly. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but this whole idea on this trend is moving away from a management paradigm to an engagement paradigm, from recruiting to cultivating, from placing to negotiation and agreement. So I don't know about you, but if you are, how many people here would like to be managed? Anybody like to be managed? I don't like to be managed, right? Do I like to be supported? Yes. So even the term management, I think I would get rid of the word, and I'm not a volunteer management. I'm helping to engage people in the community. And so that's the whole idea of helping our staff to see the folks who are coming in as a resource and more of a two-way.
There's more Montgomery Community Media.